A couple of months ago, I had the pleasure of chatting with author Judith Turner about her new book, which is titled You Are Never Alone, Hugs from Heaven. The book is a collection of real life stories about signs, synchronicities, and messages from deceased loved ones, where Judith includes what she calls Judith's insights for each story, providing an interpretation of the signs and messages, where she connects them to guardian angels and spiritual guides. Her book is inspirational, it's spiritual, and it focuses on themes of hope, healing, and love when grieving a loss. In this episode, I'd like to share our conversation. So let's talk about it. My name is Maria Juarez, and you're listening to En This Casa. Bienvenidos.
Hello. Hi, Maria.
Hi, Judith. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. So I just wanted to thank you so much for joining me. I did read through your new book, You Are Never Alone, Hugs from Heaven, and I truly, truly enjoyed it. So I wanted to see if you would start by giving me a little introduction about yourself. I know that you've been an intuitive consultant and a life coach for the most of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, it's been about 43 years. And since I'm only 47, I started when I was 4. No, only kidding. Um, but all my life, actually. And sometimes you're doing it without even know you're doing it. Before I was a professional um, psychic back then, intuitive consultant now.
Okay.
As the sign of the times changes and we kick out words, psychic back when I first came out, it was coming out of the closet, literally.
Right.
And now it's quite popular.
Yes.
Now it's who do you go to, not, oh, you can't go to that.
Right.
So the sign of the times has been amazing. And I guess I was born in the right time in order for people to be able to have accepted it.
Right.
When you do research on it, it was back in the 1400s, the 1300s. So it's been around for a long time that people have been intuitive. It wasn't a magician act that people did. So doing something your whole life, it becomes, when you're young, you didn't realize you were different than anybody else until somebody said, I got an unlisted telephone number, and I knew the number without anybody telling me, until someone said, well, not everybody can do that. And so that became a very interesting point of me going, what do you mean nobody else can do that?
Right.
So that was the start of me knowing I was a little different. And so, there are things, then things start adding up in your life. Like, how come I believed I came from someplace, there was a different life before me,
Right.
where I was born, and I felt other people. So things started adding up. And then, it came to me. And at first I didn't want to be this, because it wasn't cool. It wasn't common. And I used to be like, me and Kermit the Frog, we ain't easy being green,
Yeah.
because we're different.
Right.
And so, but people flocked to what I had to say. And it happened to me. I didn't happen to it.
Right.
So I always say, it's became easy because I've never advertised really in my life. There wasn't social media 43 years ago. It was barely carrier pigeon. So, it was, there wasn't this easy way to put advertisements out.
Right.
So it was an interesting being to start off with in life.
Right.
And then come to a place like now where everything's so acceptable.
Right. Isn't that interesting how things have changed and it's become trendy, kind of?
That's what I said. It's not do you go, it's who do you go to?
Right. Right.
Who's
Exactly.
your guru?
Yeah.
Who's your life coach?
Right.
And people love life coaching in general because it's therapy with answers.
Okay.
People want instant gratification. And sometimes I don't want to go to, and my daughter's a therapist. I'm not against therapists at all. I love them. Thank God for them. But sometimes I get to say what a therapist can't.
Right.
And I could go behind doors and look behind what's behind the curtain before they figure out there is a curtain.
Right. I could see that.
And I think that is why people love intuitive life coaching,
Mhm.
not just life coaching.
Right, right. Okay, so I was not familiar. I mean, I've I've been to a therapist, so I'm familiar with therapy, but I was not truly familiar with like what life coaching specifically like involves and brings to and value to the table for someone. So it's having it also be intuitive. I guess what I hear you saying is that it is more like therapy, but also with a little bit more conversation about answers and less like conjecture. And then maybe there's a little bit the intuitiveness that you bring to it is what helps in the guidance that you're providing.
Well, say somebody comes in and they've lost somebody,
Okay.
okay?
Huh.
And we're going to a therapist, they'd be talking about how they lost their husband and what it meant to them.
Right.
They walk into a room with someone like myself, and I'm saying, "Oh, Jimmy passed away or is in the room, and, he by the way, he said he left $5,000 in the left-hand drawer, so if you need to pay a bill, go there. It's
Okay.
under my blue underwear, not my whites."
Hmm.
Um, it's a little shocking,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And people will say, "He said what?"
Hmm.
Okay, sometimes it's not that detailed, and
Hmm.
sometimes it is.
Hmm.
The one thing about intuitiveness is you don't know what you're gonna get.
Right.
So and the one thing I love about You Are Never Alone, Hugs from Heaven is not everybody has to go to even a life coach or a psychic to start feeling their own feelings and have confidence in them.
Right.
So we take it to that side of things.
Hmm.
There's the mediumship, but what happens and what I'm finding out in this book every day when people read it is that they read it. Some people believed, some people weren't sure, but it opened up their world to feeling less grief about who they've lost.
Okay.
Like, instead of them being a million miles away somewhere they can't obtain them,
Hmm.
they find them that maybe they're right in the next room or sitting next to them, they just can't see them.
Right. I get
And the
that.
and the stories because there's 152 different stories in this particular book.
Hmm.
And if you've read the book, so
I did.
it's a gamut. I
Yeah.
mean, people go, "Oh my god, I cried my eyes out." And then I read, another story, and it just made me laugh.
Yeah.
And then I read a story, and I was like, "Oh my god, I took away these 3 words that meant so much to me."
Hmm.
And as I get feedback on You Are Never Alone, Hugs from Heaven, I'm finding out that people are feeling less alone in
Hmm.
their time of grief, their time of loss. And some people, it's not even that somebody died,
Hmm.
it's that they felt that they were never lucky enough to have somebody.
Hmm. Yeah.
So maybe they had a pet or a dog or a cat or something, and, um, that has passed away, and
Mhm.
now they get to believe that there's some guardian angel looking out for them.
No, absolutely. And I think you've done a beautiful job transporting that message through your book. It is clear that I feel like at the end of the book, the message of you're not alone is absolutely clear, and that there are hugs from heaven all around you and that all you have to do is acknowledge them and look for
Right.
them. And then you will know that you have angels or, heavenly angels, earthly angels, or, everything that you speak to in the book, which is truly amazing.
Yeah, and one thing that this book does that no book else has out there, like, there are people who touch upon it. There are people but nobody has a Judith's insight
Yes.
where I explain what the person felt, where it could take you, what it could mean, the other dimensions. So there's a personal answer from me, but then threaded through it is a universal answer. And I find that people are like, as much as I like the story, I love waiting to hear what you had to say about it.
Yes. That was truly unique, Judith, for me to see that. You had kind of over the phone explained to me a little bit about what the book was about, and I still did not expect this particular format where it was, the stories that people have of their encounters or signs or messages that they're having, and then your insights on it. And I feel like that is where the true message is conveyed. Your insights is where you're letting people understand this is how you know you're never alone. This is where your hugs from heaven are coming from. And that was truly to me amazing. I felt like I also understood what you're saying in regards to I made notes. I
I
flagged a
love
whole
that.
bunch
Oh, I love that. You're
and
taking this book so serious, and I
I
love it.
took it very seriously. I even paid attention to the fact, Judith, that like in the beginning, you have the different not messages, but you've got there because it's not chapters. They're
Well, you know what? I'm as you say, I'm a rule breaker.
yeah. I see that, but that's good.
But
So,
so I didn't want your normal chapter. Like,
right.
I went when I was on my seek to find a new agent because my last books were 23 and 25 years ago. I wrote two other books.
Okay.
One is The Hidden World of Relationships, one's The Hidden World of Birthdays, and they've been on the shelf consistently for 25 years plus. And so when you do something on a whole different scale,
Mhm.
I was looking for an agent, and of course my agent was 25 years older too, so no longer in business.
Okay.
And people would say, no, you have to do it this way,
Mhm.
or I won't take you. And I'd be like, okay, so you're not for me.
Yeah.
Or you have to do you want to change it this. And I'd be like, no. And I met a guy who said, if you go with me, if we don't sell it the way you want it, you can self-publish it. So now it's published by Heavenly Wishes, which is my company.
Okay.
And actually, it's a story that I have in the book called Wish.
Mhm.
And so that being said, it took me to a place of I don't know how I want this book to find its success
Mhm.
by what it does and how it elevates people and
Absolutely.
what it gives to them.
Right.
So I'm going to just let this be, publish it, and allow the universe to take it on.
Yeah.
And so I found that there's this hunger for my side of the story.
Mhm. Yes.
If you look at the cover, I think it's beautiful. That I
Mhm.
took a painting and made that my cover.
Yes.
An
It's
incredible artist did it from Germany, Suzanne Nordorf,
it's
and
beautiful.
she sketched every sketch in this book
Mhm.
and on the outside cover.
Every
So it
reflection, you have a new set of sketches that goes with the reflection.
right.
Yeah.
So you have a reflection that goes with the sketches. So I wanted chapters to be the non-chapters are called reflections, where people get to read the book and maybe go, okay, I want to take a mental break when I can do this chapter today.
Mhm.
So then when they open it up, it kind of gives them a new flush and something else to think about. And so, and people have revelations from those also.
Absolutely. So for me, when I was reading through it, Judith, I started to notice that like I resonated and connected in a very personal way. Because you mentioned like some people personally connecting to some of the stories, and then some people like just connecting to a few words, whether it's in the story or it's in your insight. And
Right,
I noticed that I was doing a lot more of personal connecting in the first reflections, which the first three, which are heavenly, believe, and angels.
right.
And then the next ones, I was connecting mainly with just like words that meant a lot to me, versus like actual personal resonating experiences, which was interesting to me because in my grief journey, because I lost my husband a little over 2 years ago, and I still struggle with the
I'm
grief of
sorry
losing
for
him.
that.
Thank you, I appreciate
But the
that.
good thing is he sits with you. As
Yeah,
I'm looking with you, he seems to be sitting, I want to say on my right, your left.
I love that. Well, I struggled with not struggled because I thought it was an amazing book. But I didn't connect personally with the stories through serenity, love, answers, healing, gratitude, hope, faith, peace. Those are all things that I struggle with. And so it was strange to me to go back and look at that and realize that, like, on a personal level, heavenly, believe, angels, those are things I'm searching for in a connection with my husband so desperately for.
Right.
I connected really, really closely with the stories in those first three reflections. And in the following reflections, it was more like word bites of advice that were more speaking to me versus there was a personal connection of something that resonated. Does that make sense?
Sure. And that's the greatest thing about the book. There's this gentleman who wrote me a note, and I remember him showing up at my book signing going, he's not my normal customer.
Uh-huh.
He was like, maybe 58, 60 years old, kind of dressed a certain way with a baseball cap. And came in alone, and he looked at me and he was like, "I'm here to get your book." And I'm like, "I'm so happy for that." And then I get an email from him and he said, um, you know, there were words in this book that were so amazing. And so he said, I always look for takeaways of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, and I said, "Oh, which ones?" And he said, "A lot of them." But he said, "I'm going to send you
Mm-hmm.
a few."
Okay.
And so I looked at him and I said, "That's really wonderful, because you don't know who your customer is."
Right.
Because you know what? Everybody's the customer in this book.
Yeah.
Everybody has some sort of grief. Everybody has some kind of pain. And the one thing I found recently, we were doing an event at this big uh, Bergen Pack in New Jersey, where I live. And Liz, my editor, got up to speak, and she wrote the third story of the book Crossing Angels. Um, and you know, I let her read it.
Mm-hmm.
And because I wanted her passion of her own story, and sometimes it's nice for people to do that. And all of a sudden, I heard something that I wrote in the insight that I didn't hear before.
Okay.
And I wrote the book. And I'm like, if that can happen to me, I tell people, after you read the book, and if you're not a book reader,
Mm-hmm.
get it and open the book up to a story a day or a story a week and see what it's telling you.
So
A-
in the book Crossing Over, or in the story Crossing Over Angel, right? That's one we're discussing, right?
Yeah,
With Waters Murray.
yeah.
I actually notated something, lots of things. That's so funny that resonated with me from Judith's insights. I might as well just highlighted the whole thing because there's that
All
side
right.
and then the backside too, Judith. But that story, that's so funny that you bring it up because I resonated so much with that it gave me such peace when you're inside about no one crossing over by themselves. Right.
Right,
So that whether their loved ones, spirits, or guiding energies, that someone always comes to help cross them over. Uh,
right,
that really, really struck me. Also, because to your point earlier, I've spoken to other, psychics and intuitives, and I have been told stories, not stories, that's not the correct word, but been given information about how who helped my husband cross over and what that experience was like for him because his death was unexpected.
right.
And so that kind of helps to confirm and reassure me in that feeling of, him not having a crossover that wasn't scary or um,
And
you know,
that's why that was so important to explain both sides of it.
yeah.
Elizabeth explains like the whole journey up until then, and what she had to give up and what she did and what her family went through,
Hmm.
and you can just feel her pain and her anguish in losing somebody.
Hmm.
And then her crossing over and who wasn't there and who didn't get there. Not every detail is explained in every part of the story. Otherwise, every story would be its own entire book.
Yeah.
But in this situation, what we found was I was like, I want to explain that they're not alone even if you're not there. And
Mhm.
sometimes people have to go alone,
Right.
but
Right.
they're not alone because whoever came to get them, and
Mhm.
it's usually not one person. I
Right.
always say it takes a village, sometimes an army, and sometimes it is that one.
Mhm.
But you can feel that if you're not there, they're
Mhm.
not doing it alone, they're not going it alone, but they felt safe enough to leave.
Right. They transitioned in love in your
They
work.
transitioned in love and with safety.
Mhm.
I just had a conversation with a guy whose father's 102, and the father's really struggling at letting go.
Mhm.
And, at like 70 pounds and 6'6" and like really struggling. And he's like, I can't be there all the time. And I said, don't worry. If you're meant to be there, you will be. And if you're not, that's because, Gloria came and got him and said, let's hightail it out of here before those people come back and
Right.
hold on to you a little longer.
Right. That makes sense. That makes sense so much.
So everybody can't be there when somebody passes.
Yeah.
And that pain when somebody can't be there or feeling like, what if I was there? I would have saved them.
Mhm.
No,
Right.
that would have not happened. They go when they're supposed to go
Mhm.
in the way that they felt safe,
Right.
because whoever came and got them, it's a release that their soul has to go through. And somebody was there that made them feel comfortable enough
Mhm.
to go, it's my time to just take that step.
Yeah. Wow.
And they never go alone, which is important because you don't want them to be alone either. That's part of the sadness too,
Yeah.
is that when we think about people that have passed, we look at them like they're standing on an island or on a cloud all alone by themselves,
Mhm.
and that they're not.
I totally get that. One of my biggest issues with my husband's passing was that it was a motorcycle accident and he was had gone for a long ride. He was about an hour outside of the city. We live in Dallas, Texas. And he had driven north because he would like to take like just on the weekends long rides so he can be on the freeway for a long time and just go.
Right.
And so he was about an hour outside the city and when he had his accident and it was, a small rural area with just, 2-lane highways going either way. So he was alone, he died alone. And then they said he died instantly. The medical examiner did, which I'm grateful for if that's the case. But one of the things that played in my head was that like it would have taken it caused a lot of traffic. So it would have
Yeah.
taken paramedics a while to get to him and he was alone that whole time, And so this really gives a lot of insight and helps at least for me to kind of calm that feeling of uneasiness about what his transition would have been like and me feeling like I wasn't there, nobody was there. He wasn't alone. Even though
Was
yeah.
And you can tell because he never shuts up letting you know he's with you,
Yes,
right?
yes, he sends me signs
All
all
the
the
time.
time, Judith, all the time. I don't talk about it a lot because I feel like people are gonna be like, "Oh, Maria's just crazy." But it's funny because you mentioned that in the book that like, it's something people don't wanna talk about or mention, but it is true. They are giving us signs all the time.
Well, one of the biggest reasons I wanted to write this book, I kinda say that in the introduction, like, 7 out of 10 people in the United States believe in angels,
Okay.
okay? And it's not the one thing it's not just Catholics, Protestants, or Judaism. If you read, there's other statistics that say, and I was gonna put that in the book, but I'll save that for book 2.
Yeah.
Um, is the fact that every religion believes in angels.
Mhm.
Okay. And Guardian Angel Day is October 2nd. That's why the book came out October 2nd.
Right. And you
Um,
mentioned that in the book.
yeah. But one of the reasons I want people to think is you're not alone in believing what you believe.
Right.
It's not that you're not only alone, but you're not alone in believing
I love
what
that.
your thoughts are. You're not alone in believing that, you know, if you pick up a shirt and it has the tag with your mother's name on it, like it's named after her, you're like, and it's her birthday, and I was looking for a red shirt, and or you're like one of the stories I talk about, I was in an operating room and they were backed up and there were so many, and I had to go to the bathroom and they let me go in the bathroom in the operating room, and there was a penny on the windowsill.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like,
This story's in there.
yeah, the story's in there. And
Uh-huh.
I was just like, how could that be? And I
Mhm.
came out and they had it in my hand. The nurse was like, what are you doing that? And I said, I got to take this with me. This is going to make me feel like I'm going to get through this crazy surgery.
Right.
And
It was your penny from heaven.
it was my penny from heaven.
Mhm.
But so the nurse taped it onto my gown.
Mhm.
And when I woke up, it was still there.
Yeah, that's
And
amazing.
she said, you better take that home with you, because she said to me, that is all one lucky penny. That
Yeah,
is your penny from heaven.
yeah.
So when those things happen, you're like, and I say this to people all the time. I believed at that moment I was getting a hug, that I was safe, that the surgery was going to go well, that it was going to be great. But more than that, I didn't feel alone.
Yeah.
And that gave me the confidence and less fear and less anxiety. And I say to people, so what if I'm wrong?
Mhm.
What if I'm wrong? Does it really matter? If it gave me in that moment peace, and
Right.
all the millions and millions of people that believe in this, if
Absolutely.
it changes their life in some kind of positive way,
Mhm.
not that I believe I'm wrong, because I believe I'm as all those other people, but none of this is crazy.
Right, but
Mm.
just for argument's sake, if you were
But
yeah,
just for argument for the people, like, oh, that's just a bunch of hogwash.
yeah,
Well, what if it was?
right.
What if you walking into a room and knowing something about somebody is just pure hogwash? So I've been doing it a long time. And I'm like, yeah, the proof is just in the pudding. It's
Right.
just there. We're past the fact that does this exist.
Mhm.
So if you're getting a message or you're getting a sign, or you believe the three numbers on the clock or 1111 matters.
Mhm.
So what's wrong with that?
Yeah,
Absolutely nothing.
nothing. And you have such a beautiful way in your book, Judith, in your insights of giving a very personal meaning to those signs that can seem very common or universal to the individual story that's being told. You just
Thank you.
yeah, no, it's truly remarkable how you're able to just kind of like put words to you mentioned um let me see if I can find one real quick because you give a lot of like responses in regards to let me think about this. Maybe like with the guy the fly story, right? The dad is a fly.
Right. Oh, yes. Great story.
Yeah, that's a great
Casey story.
yeah, yeah, that's a great story. And you mention like how the that particularly goes with her, right? Because her dad had a specific personality and then what the fly symbolizes, which is separate than what we commonly think about like a fly being a nuisance or things like that, but how persistent it is and some other like, very obvious traits of what this, insect has and like how you can
Right.
connect that spiritually, but then you also connect it to her dad and how what his relationship with her was like and what his personality was like and it you have a way of doing that throughout your insights which is makes it easier I guess is the only word I can think of to feel comfortable with like wow okay I maybe I am feeling the correct intuition about these signs that they are for me and not just being like well anybody could believe that sign everybody saw that dragonfly everybody saw the number or
Right.
right, and so that comes through really, really well in
Well,
your
when it's something like a fly, and her father was like somebody who caught flies on, like, with toothpicks, like,
yeah,
who does that? Like,
right,
like, I don't know that many I don't think I ever read a story where somebody's father did something like that, right?
right,
So, for him to show up, and there's times like it's dead of winter and there's a fly on her
Right.
nose. Like, how does that happen? Like,
Yeah.
well, it doesn't matter for the average person, but for somebody who's looking for reassurance that day, and it happens to be her daughter's wedding, or it happens to be where she has to sign a legal document,
Mm.
it's like, okay, how does that happen?
Right.
You
Absolutely.
know? So, I was, no matter what you do or what you feel, if it's positive and it resonates for you to have a positive response to it, which is why You Are Never Alone Hugs from Heaven matters to people, is they may not get what I wrote out of it, but
Mhm.
they pick a line out of the book and I'm like, and they'll resonate to it and be saying like, that meant so much to me. And I'll be like, wow, I didn't think that was going to be a line that somebody'd pick out of the book.
Yeah.
And one of the stories I was very interesting reading, someone just wrote to me, was how the penny mattered to her. She got the book from a friend because a lot of people seem to be giving it to people when they hear people's have passed, and they'll
Okay.
give it as a gift
Okay.
because they don't know what to do for them.
Right.
And so a lot of people are sending it to people who are grieving or have lost them or lost children. As you see, there's a few people that have stories like that in the book.
Mhm.
And she said, I didn't believe it
Mm.
until it was my mother's birthday. And I walked out and there was a penny on my stoop. And I was like, really? Like, I never even would have thought of that if I hadn't read the book.
Yeah.
So she
No.
said, I felt like it was speaking to me. And I'm like, wow. And I felt so good that on my mom's birthday, I walk out of my house and
And
there's
there's
a
that
penny
time.
on my step. And I'm like, how terrific is that? And she said, it kind of changed me from being sad into being like, okay, mom, you're coming with me today.
No,
You
for
know?
sure. And I was gifted quite a few books myself, over the past couple of years as I'm going through my grief journey with losing my husband. And there's two quotes that I remember from your book. And one of them I think it was in your insights, and it was about grief. And you say grief is like a scale. Each person carries their own weight of loss, yet no two burdens are exactly the same. And so there is also another portion that I can't seem to find where I flagged it, but you talk about how everyone's grief is different, and there is no time, for grief to be over. There's no time limit. It's just, I wish I could find it because it was such a great quote. But I'm going to try to insert it if I can in the podcast because it was really great. But my point is that as a grief book, as a gift for somebody going through their journey of losing somebody, um, that I think this is a great gift to give because it's not a book telling you how to process your grief. It's a book telling you you're still connected to this person. And that to me feels so much more comforting than a book telling me these are your stages and these are when you're supposed to be going through them, and this is how you're supposed to think about those stages. To me, that has not been as helpful as your book has been, just reminding me that my husband talks to me every day if I'm just paying attention.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. And you know what? With the days you thought you weren't paying attention and you look back, you realize that when you read these stories, sometimes today is starting a story, you don't know that's a story.
Right.
Okay?
Absolutely.
So, we're all in the middle of a story. We just don't know where it's going to end or where it's going to take us.
Hmm.
And things matter in the past and they get highlighted through reading different stories in this book.
Right.
It may not I got a call from a girl and she said to me, "That story on It's a Wonderful Life
Hmm.
is amazing. I feel like I know you so much better now."
Hmm.
And I said, "You know what? everybody has their own It's a Wonderful Life story.
Yeah.
I only told one of them because it pertained to It's a Wonderful Life, but I could go on for years.
Right.
I had to cut 50 of my own stories out because I really didn't want the book to be only really about me, but I really wanted enough of me in there that people know as a person who is positive and a teacher of so much with people in this field, that we are we're all are mortal.
Mhm. Right.
We all have tears, we all have pain, we all have loss, we all have grief. And writing this book was cathartic for me alone because I felt that so many times. I mean, I have a sister that's very sick right now,
Mhm.
and I she even has a story in the book. I got her to write a story in the book, and just her being a part of it was so cathartic for me.
Mhm.
Um, the journey has been so spiritual in its own. Um, my editor and I have become like, I don't know, Thelma and Louise and the Ride and Die team
Mhm.
of so many inner stories in this book,
Yeah.
that our biggest word we use is all encompassing, because everything's all encompassing. And
Right.
we always are looking for the story within the story.
Right. And that I think that it was surprising to me when I your first story comes in like within the first 5 stories. I think yours shows up. And I think that I didn't realize that it was you until I was reading through the story.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, and then I went back and looked at the next page and I'm like, oh, it does say Judith. This is one of her stories. That's
Right.
interesting. And then your stories keep popping up. And I really think that, to your point, that does a great job of, yeah, saying, okay, Judith is human too. She has these same experiences, but also the fact that you give insights on your own stories was really, really amazing and fun to
Well,
see.
not to interrupt you, but in doing that, I wanted to show people that even I have to take the reflection back to my own story, so
Right,
that I can sometimes be like, okay, so this is the Judy the person, and this is Judy the one that goes to work.
right. Yeah,
And sometimes even I have to go, okay, what was that all about, Alfie?
right. And I
Um
think that you executed that well in your stories and then doing insights on it in this book because that was the message that I feel like I received from it.
Yes. I mean, if you read the dedication, I don't know if you did read the dedication of the book, was to this guy, Kevin,
Yes, I was going to ask
who
about that.
and Kevin has his own story, and his mother writes
Mhm.
stories in the book. And even how this book ignited, I hadn't written a book in over 20 years, and this big drama happened in Hollywood. Kevin was a big producer, and he was calling me as a friend, getting, all kinds of skinny on what, how, and where and what. And so we became close. And he said, I didn't know you wrote a book. I didn't even know you were a producer on the Tommy Hilfiger show, The Cut. I said, yeah, I created that show for him.
Mhm.
I said, I'm a chief cook and bottle washer of life. I'm creative, spiritual. We all have multitask in our own self.
Mhm.
Being a psychic's a lot of giving out, and creativity is a lot of like a feeding. I always say we have to feed the animals at the zoo, and we have to learn how to feed ourselves.
Okay.
So anyway, and talking to Kevin, he was the encouragement of, you got to do this. This could be amazing. We could take stories. Every one of these stories we could sell, put in movies, do this, do that. And he was amazing.
Yeah.
And needless to say, 26, 27 hours, I think it was, before he suddenly passed on the 401 in LA, he we had picked 3 names, and he said, "You need to go with this. I miss you. Let's get this going."
Mhm.
And he passed at 44 years old.
Mhm.
And I didn't even realize I went through such a grief myself. Now, what happens to my thing that I just worked on and came up with and did? Does this mean because Kevin passed, I shouldn't do it?
Right.
Like, as human beings, we question, like, why? So I had to figure out what that next thing was.
Mhm.
And luckily, I was sitting one day, like, just like frustrated with agents and how you do it. And, I wasn't a TikToker, and I'm not a this and I'm not a that. A- And like, the world changed in 25 years.
Mhm.
What do I do? How do I make this? How do I have this happen?
Right.
And I did. And that's why I wanted to honor Kevin, because without that, I didn't realize that I was putting Kevin's life to help him through a bad time,
Mhm.
but he at the same moment, he was helping me put a pen back in my hands
Mhm.
in a way that had been taken away
Mhm.
since my mom died.
Wow.
And so, and then I utilized the good of that and said, "You know what? No matter what," with my son said, "You're gonna find your path. You're gonna meet that next person. There'll be somebody or something that encourages you to do it."
Mhm.
And after talking to him and, like, crying for a few minutes, I was like, "He just gave me the pen back in my hand, my own son."
Yeah.
And so we wanna humanize what is so real in "You Are Never Alone, Hugs from Heaven."
Right.
It's not hokey pokey. It's and grief is so real, and loss is so real, and emptiness is so real, and losing a dog is so real, and losing a child to fentanyl is so real,
Mm.
and people don't know how to go on.
Right. No, for sure.
And hopefully, there'll be the slices of life that happen to other people that help heal everybody else. And that's why "You Are Never Alone, Hugs from Heaven" is now out there.
Absolutely. And I think, earlier when I was mentioning that I felt like this book as a grief gift to somebody who's going through the journey, whether it's recent or it's been a while.
Right.
Um, I do think that it gives more of a connection and more of a hope to continue moving in life versus like just saying, how do I get over this? Because I think people feel like the societal expectation is, okay, well, it's been so long now, be over it and move
Right.
on. Yeah.
Right.
And you're never going to get over it, right?
Right. No.
And I think you do a really good job in your insight. There's a story for Linda called Mama's Got Your Back. And you say you're talking in regards to like moving on to another chapter. Linda has like a very,
Right.
very small story about buying a house in Naples and her mother giving her confirmation. And then you start talking about like, where you get that confidence from and how we can like, our guardian angels and our guides are there like helping to give that information, help to let us know, encourage us. And then you say that, is it truly over? Will this be the right new beginning? These are the questions that echo in our hearts whenever we take a leap, whether moving forward, making a change, or committing to something significant. We second guess ourselves, feeling both excitement and hesitation. We wonder if we're closing a chapter or if we should even be starting a new one. And I think that for me, in my experience, summarizes my whole conflict with grief. You know, do I have to close this chapter? Is it okay for me to start a new one? Do I even want to start a new one? Is this truly over? Or do I continue in a version of what that was? Is it a
Right.
whole new beginning? Like that one insight.
And that's what this should teach you. You're not really having to give up the past to have a future.
Yeah,
It's just you don't get over it. You just get on with it.
right.
And if you can do something and feel like somebody is with you instead of it's a choice to
Mhm.
bury them and never look back,
Right.
you can bury them in comfort and
Mhm.
enjoy them in joy.
Mhm.
So you can take them with you, because I'm going to say this to you, you will have another beginning.
Mhm.
Okay. And you will have another love. but it may not be ready on Tuesday. But it doesn't mean, because, the next person that comes into your life won't be a competition for your husband.
Right.
Okay. Nor will it impede if you don't allow it to,
Mm.
because he comes with you. He's like a silent best friend,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
Mhm.
I don't think there's a day in my life anymore that I don't take my mother with me,
Mhm.
more since I wrote this book than before, because now I can speak about it clearly.
Right.
I can wallow in the joy of it.
Mhm.
I can say out loud to people, yeah, guess what? My mother did this today,
Yeah.
because I'm no longer afraid either,
Right, right. You
you
give
know?
yourself that same connection and permission like you're giving all of us who
Us.
are
Yeah.
reading the
So
book.
exactly. This is
Yeah.
about giving yourself permission to accept what you choose to believe.
Right.
And if you're religious, then you're going to realize that, oh, wait a second. God already gave us permission. He's the one who said you're going to have a guardian angel
Right.
and they will walk with you.
Mhm.
You wonder why God can't do it all. Santa has the elves, God has guardian angels,
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
right? He
Uh-huh.
also is Dancer, Prancer, Comet, Cupid, and Stupid. Um, I mean, you really, it's people need people.
Right.
And I found that a community has grown amongst people giving out the books to other people.
Mhm.
And they're having, a woman told me yesterday, it's kind of like we created our own little grief group, even though some of us didn't lose somebody right away.
Uh-huh.
But she said, now every time I think about somebody, I go, I get in this thing. And then they're calling me up talking about the book. And they're like, and she said, there's 5 of us that have this book,
Yeah.
it right on my block.
Mhm.
And she said, I called up a friend to tell her about the book. And she said, oh, Diane already gave it to me.
Yeah. Well, it's so relatable the way that you've told the stories, the way that they're just stories, people stories, and then your insights. It's very relatable and, being able to process your own emotions or internal feelings about grief versus, like I said, a book that's supposed to teach you about therapeutically about, grief versus this is giving you that information, but you're relating to other people's experiences through it. So it's nice. It's just a more comfortable way to kind of get the information.
And the one thing I felt when people talk about grief and the 7 stages and what you have to go through, and somebody goes, but I still feel like I'm on stage 2, and it's
Mhm.
5 years. And I'm like, throw the stages out the window.
Right,
Just live you, be
right.
you,
Mhm. I
you
agree with
know?
that so much, Judith, because they talk about, oh, they're stages, but then they say, no, they're cycles because you go back and forth. And in my experience, yeah, if I'm looking at these stages, they're not stages. I have definitely cycled back to the first ones over and over and over again. So yeah, to your point, throw them out the window. Like,
Yeah, like, I mean, you really have to be like, who am I? What do I believe?
Mhm,
And I tell people, get your squad together.
mhm,
Share this book with other people you love,
mhm.
and they will then tell you what they grieve over,
Right.
even if they didn't know it.
Yeah.
I love the people who are the naysayers and then read it and tell me, oh my God, I cried on story 2 like I was 2. And I'm
Mhm.
like, good.
Yeah.
Like if you read Picture This, there's a story in the book about a man receiving a picture from his daughter at the same moment UPS is delivering the
Yeah.
picture,
And then
right?
he gets the call about his dad at the same time.
And then at the same time, he's opening the package, and
Yes.
it's a picture of his father, her grandfather, waving goodbye in the picture. He
Mhm,
gets the call from the hospital saying he passed.
mhm.
How is that coincidental?
It's not.
That is a plan.
Mhm,
But that gentleman,
mhm.
okay, now that's an amazing story because
Mhm.
now people go, I'm going to keep taking pictures. I'm going to keep doing this
Yeah.
because that taught what there are people who got out of that, that I need to have pictures that are going to be more meaningful someday than I think they are at the time.
Yeah. No,
It's
definitely.
not just about the timing of the UPS driver and them and him having it, which is an incredible story. But how about the legacy of the daughter by taking that picture,
Mhm.
saying, this is just an incredible moment of my grandfather.
Well, she was just following her own intuition too,
Vision.
you know? She just felt the need to take the picture, and then she just felt the need to print it off and send it to her dad, and she just followed that instinct, that intuition to do it, that little voice that was telling her to do it.
And the funny thing is, it wasn't just a picture, it was a framed
Yeah, she framed it.
print
Mhm.
that is now on the wall like a legacy of
Mhm.
life.
Yeah,
And the story keeps continuing. I
right.
mean, that simple picture turned into a gift of a lifetime.
Absolutely, 'cause it gave her dad his goodbye with his father, even though he wasn't there.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
And that guy also has a story when the father died.
Uh-huh.
He's on the LIE, you know how big the LIE is or whatever. It's a big roadway. It's kind of like the 401 in California. I don't know what it's like in Dallas, but it's a big highway.
Mhm.
And as he's getting up, going to the funeral parlor, there's the hearse next to him,
No!
riding with him.
Amazing.
Okay. I think it's called The Last Ride.
Yes.
Some of these stories I named a few different times and kept playing around with them. So, I may be on the last version, but,
But he
but
also followed his instinct, Judith, and I feel like there's an
mm,
underlying message here that you're giving us too of like, we all have a connection, we all have an intuition, we're all playing a part, and if we just listen to it, whether it's paying attention to the signs or listening to our own intuition about what we're supposed to be doing, then we are able to give the gift of a sign to somebody, be the assistant, to help with the sign,
right.
or we're putting ourselves in play of receiving the sign. Because like that's what the dad did, right? He was like, I'm up early, I don't know what to do. I guess I'll leave. I'll go now.
Exactly. And there, but it was also the time of it taking that last ride
Mhm.
together.
Mhm.
Like here we are in our hometown, going down tandem together,
Mhm.
and we're like both riding off into the sunset of life,
Mhm.
taking our next journey, but together in
Absolutely.
tandem. And but I think that what's most important is he had the permission to believe in it and retell the story and
Mhm.
not feel crazy
Right.
that here's a big businessman putting it out there of his story.
Mhm.
And those stories, if everybody keeps telling their stories, we're all going to feel more love. We're all going to feel not never alone. And we're certainly going to feel hugs from heaven on a regular basis.
Definitely.
And you know what? Therapeutically, if you get 24 hugs a day, we'd all be the healthiest, happiest people in the world, no matter what took place or who's president.
Right.
Okay. Like nothing else would matter.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Okay. So I really think that um the gift is in owning the book. And I tell people this isn't a book you should give away. It's a book you should give away as a gift
Mhm.
and hold on to it. And I bet you when you open up the story, and I tell people just open the book and see what story it has to tell you
Mhm.
that day. If you're not, I'm not a big book to book reader. Like I want, I like opening a book in the middle on the end and being like, okay, let me see this is about. So that's why I did it that way
Mhm.
because I like all the non-readers.
Mhm.
Okay. The readers are going to read my book, but
Right.
the non-readers who are
Mhm.
like, "Ah, 300 pages. No, you can read one and read a story and be done.
Right.
Okay. And I
But you
say,
don't want to. I'm a non-reader.
yeah.
And
See,
I turned the page and turned the page and turned the page.
I know I had some non-readers going, I spent the whole weekend reading your book. I can't believe it. I can't
Yeah.
believe it. I
Mhm.
didn't expect that. I
Mhm.
was like, you know, it's raining out. I'm gonna see what this has to do.
Mhm.
And then I've gotten so many people have taken it on a journey. I'll sometimes put it up on Facebook or Instagram or something, and the book's like in France, in Germany, in Australia, like because people go on trips and they take pictures of the seat of
Oh
going,
my
where
God.
they're
Yeah.
going or the sign,
Uh-huh.
because it's like, where's Waldo? Except
Yeah,
is whereas you are never alone, hugs from heaven going today.
exactly. Well, that is amazing. I really enjoyed the book, Judith, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today about it. I think it's a great book, and like you said earlier, anybody who is, whether they are in a grief journey now, or not, it's a good book because we will all lose someone at some point, and it's just it definitely sends the right message of that we're never alone, and that we are always getting hugs from heaven if we're just paying attention. And I
I
love
just want to say one other thing, and
that.
that is, memories with friends and
Okay.
memories with people. Sometimes life goes in different ways.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes you're in a situation where this also teaches people, and I've gotten this feedback, that they've reached out to old friends because it's
Uh-huh.
triggered memories and friendships and bonds that they didn't really know affected them.
Uh-huh.
And before it was too late in life, that they felt like they had a loss as if the person died,
Hmm.
but they didn't, and
Right.
they could control it. So they've reached out or wrote somebody a note. And I found that fascinating because they felt like, why is that memory coming up? Or why did I find their note to me from high school?
Hmm.
And so there's grief and loss while we're living
Yeah.
too.
Absolutely. Yes. I love that. And I talk about that on my podcast, about how, yeah, grief isn't just, after we've like physically lost somebody into the spirit realm, that, we have a lot of grief of losing situations, losing relationships. We grieve losing memorabilia, you lose a sentimental ring or something, and you grieve, what that meant to you and the fact that you don't have it anymore. So I absolutely agree with, yes, there's grief, tons of grief, ways we grieve that haven't are outside of just losing somebody we love. And I think this is a great book in teaching us how to kind of connect with the fact that it's not really a loss. We never really lose anything.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah. It just changes form.
I love every part of the take of everything you said today, because I'm getting to talk to another person who read the book and really, really got it. And that warms my heart
Yeah,
because that's what it's meant to do.
absolutely. Well, you definitely accomplished that for me.
Thank you, Maria.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today, Judith. I really, really appreciate it so much.
A huge thank you to Judith Turner for spending some time with me and sharing her heart behind her new book, You Are Never Alone, Hugs from Heaven. I hope this conversation reminds you that even in our deepest grief, we are held, guided, and never truly alone. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you come back next Saturday and we can continue to talk about what it's like in my Casa. I'll talk to you soon.